When someone who has caused you significant pain and harm passes away, the tidal wave of emotions that follows can feel overwhelming, complicated, and painfully isolating. For survivors of domestic abuse, the death of their abuser is rarely, if ever, a simple matter of closure. Instead, it often opens the door to a storm of conflicting feelings, grief tangled with relief, echoes of love or nostalgia interlaced with anger and guilt woven through it all. Recognizing and understanding these emotions is an essential first step toward healing, especially in a world that may not understand or acknowledge your pain. Domestic abusers are often adept manipulators. Over time, a survivor may be made to doubt their own perceptions and feelings, forced to navigate the unpredictable landscapes of cruelty and kindness. When such a polarizing presence leaves the world, the relief of knowing the threat is gone may sit alongside sorrow for what was lost, or even for what could never be. This sorrow can be deeply confusing. While those outside the situation may expect a survivor to celebrate their newfound safety, grief often does not align with expectation. Instead, it can spill out in strange, unexpected ways, leaving you struggling to make sense of your own inner world. Guilt is a common companion in this process. Whether it is guilt for feeling relief, guilt for wishing the nightmare would end even if that meant the abuser's death, or guilt for leaving in the first place, these are all natural, though deeply painful feelings. If the circumstances surrounding the abuser's death involve suicide, particularly in response to the survivor's actions such as leaving or seeking protection, that guilt can magnify until it consumes every available thought. But it is important to remember, responsibility for someone's choices does not rest on your shoulders alone, especially not when you have been fighting to survive. There may also be shame for wishing to leave, or for acting on that desire while the abuser was still alive. For some, the absence of threat brings a freedom to imagine new possibilities, yet those dreams themselves can provoke shame. You may find yourself reflecting on moments when you dared to hope for life beyond the abuser's reach, even as their presence loomed over you. It is entirely normal for survivors of trauma to feel relief when the danger finally passes. Experiencing relief does not mean you wished harm upon another person. It means simply that your mind and body can finally relax after years spent bracing against the next blow, the next outburst, the next wave of fear. The finality of death can provide a sense of closure that was otherwise impossible. The certainty that the door, once cracked, is now shut. There is no longer the threat of manipulation, nor the risk of being pulled back into a cycle you fought so hard to escape. Yet liberation from fear can carry its own burdens. You may find yourself wondering if you are allowed to grieve, or questioning if others will understand your emotions. The truth is, grief is not just about mourning the good in someone, but acknowledging the loss of possibility, the end of a chapter, even if that chapter was painful. It is the loss of the complex relationship you once endured, the end of both agony and fleeting affection. This brings us to the concept of disenfranchised grief, a sorrow that goes unrecognized, unacknowledged, or even condemned by those around you. Society often fails to grasp that it is possible, and even natural, to mourn those who have hurt us. Well-meaning friends and family may believe that, now the abuser is gone, you should feel nothing but relief. You're better off without them. Such responses ignore the emotional complexity that abusers themselves cultivated. The cruelty was often interspersed with moments of kindness, affection, or vulnerability. Acts designed to confuse, control, and bind you closer. This all-too-familiar emotional roller coaster is not easily laid to rest by death. The emotional spell of an abuser, the lingering residue of dependency, longing, or hope, does not simply dissipate because that person is no longer physically present. That tangled web of attachment is known as a trauma bond, a psychological and emotional tie between survivor and abuser that often feels unbreakable. In many cases, trauma bonds are stronger and more consuming than any healthy connection, thereby intensifying the grief experienced upon loss. Because so much of domestic abuse is hidden behind closed doors, the survivor's grief may become invisible. As others gather to memorialize the deceased, speaking of their positive traits, you are left with the truth that only you, or a select few, ever witnessed. If you express your anger or relief, you may be judged or misunderstood. If you stay silent, those around you may assume you have already moved on, or that you feel nothing. This leaves you in a precarious place, doubting your own experience and questioning if your pain is even real. Navigating grief under these circumstances is not only emotionally exhausting, but lonely. The journey of processing loss, especially loss tied to deep trauma, takes unpredictable turns and may require more time and patience than you expect. There is no single right way to feel, and there certainly is no deadline by which you must move on. The emotions that surface, anguish, confusion, anger, relief, even moments of longing, are all valid responses to an impossible situation. In the difficult weeks and months after the loss, prioritizing self-care becomes crucial. Self-care can be as simple as allowing yourself to rest, reaching out for understanding support, or seeking comfort in routine. You may find solace in journaling, creative expression, or connecting with others who share similar experiences. If you are struggling to untangle the complex feelings in the aftermath of your abuser's passing, consider seeking the support of a licensed therapist who specializes in trauma and abuse recovery. Professional guidance can help to validate your experiences and offer tools for navigating the rough waters of disenfranchised grief. It can also create a safe space where your pain, relief, and all the nuances in between will be met with compassion, not judgment. If you're unsure where to start, resources like the Psychology Today directory or organizations such as Sue Ryder can guide you toward the support you deserve. Above all, remember this truth. You are not alone. You are not to blame for the actions of your abuser, and every feeling you carry is both natural and valid. Give yourself permission to mourn in your own way and at your own pace, honoring both the pain you endured and the strength it took to survive. In this messy space between sorrow and relief, you are still moving forward, building a new life, one that you deserve, free from judgment and surrounded by hope.